We've got about 10 minutes. I want to see a show of hands for those who do want to ask questions, and we're going to go in order. You were first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh. And Don, you'll be the last one. Sir.
Okay, first I
just want to say that I think it's important for you to recognize that you represent something to many, many people in this country and internationally. And the stand that you have taken, the refusal to back down, is of tremendous consequence. And I think you have to look at all the things that are happening and have been done to you in that light. You represent much more than Norman Finkelstein. You represent a whole, very powerful, correct position, and you present it in a very articulate and very powerful way. The second thing I want to say is you raised this question about the winning moral support, and I think there's truth to that. However, the support of Israel by the United States, and frankly the fact that the tail is Israel and the dog is the United States, is, okay, we can debate that, is not influenced or is not being convinced by, and won't be, quite frankly, by public opinion. And they have said, they have said there is not an issue in Congress where there is not as much unity as there is about the cornerstone support of Israel. How do you see that being affected?
Well, you know, politics is several steps. First of all, you have to win a public over. That's one step. But then there's a second step. You have to turn that public into a political force. It's not sufficient that people just nod their heads in agreement, and I think more people are nodding their head in agreement. You have to get them, as Fannie Lou Hamer famously said. She went to a black church, and she was a very religious woman, and she said, you can complain as much as you want, but until you get up and do something, nothing is going to happen. Oh, she said, you can pray as much as you want, but until you get up and do something, nothing is going to happen. So we have to not only win over public opinion, but we have to turn it into a potent political force, and that means we have to organize. And, you know, that's work. That's work, but I'm not hopeless at all. There's no reason for hopelessness at this point. It is true, the other side, they have a lot of money. That's true. They're very committed and very well organized. That's true. They're very ruthless, and that's true. But at the risk of sounding old-fashioned, and I don't think there's anything wrong with some old-fashioned virtues, we have two powerful weapons on our side. And the powerful weapons that we have on our side are truth and justice. Now, truth and justice are powerful weapons, but only under one condition: that you learn how to wield them, how to use them. And it takes a lot of work, experience, and hard work to figure out how to wield those weapons. One thing we have to do is we have to learn the truth. That is to say, we have to sit down and read the Goldstone Report and read what Amnesty is saying. That's one of our weapons. And we also have to find a language of justice which people understand, because there are different languages of justice. In my opinion, for what it's worth, the language we have to use is the language of international law. I think people understand the notion of law and the rule of law. But if we learn how to wield those weapons, I think we can, however powerful they are and however much money they have, I think they'll lose. And I don't think that's just a kind of abstract faith. I see it, you know, all around me. You know, I'm not trying to boast, but there's no point in false modesty either. You know, Professor Dershowitz has made it his ironclad rule: he will never debate me again in public. You know, I mean, I'm sort of like I've become like the devil to him. He's literally terrified, and not because he thinks I'm so smart, but he knows two things. One, I know what I'm talking about, which he plainly doesn't.
And you do your homework.
I do my homework. And number two, I'm not going to fear sinking to his level. He likes to blame Professor Chomsky because he knows Professor Chomsky will never sink. No, I'll get down to your level and I'll talk to you the language you understand. And if you're a fraud, I'll call you a fraud in public. You know, and he's not used to that. Because everybody's so terrified of him, because he happens to be a very vindictive little man, it's true. I don't care.
Sir.
Norman, I admire your emotional stamina and armor or whatever, and I'd just like you to comment a little bit. Like, I've been learning about things since 2006, and there's times I want to rant and rave, and if someone gets in your face that makes the, that changes the subject, so on. Just a few words on your emotional approach.
I think that's an important question. That's about how you communicate, and that's an important part of politics. I think that a lot of times people get angry because they know what the other person is saying is not true, but they don't know how to answer it. And I used to get very angry and frustrated and wanted to just, scream, because I know that must not be true, but I don't have the answer at my fingertips. The more you learn the facts, the less angry you become. Because you know that very calmly and very quietly you can answer the point. And in fact, you enjoy it. It becomes a kind of, it's not right because it's people's lives that are at stake, but to those who enjoy mental games, it's actually a kind of mental game. And let's say I told a fellow yesterday, ask me another question. Ask me another question. And then when he sat down, the way I ended it was, do you have any more questions? He said, no. So I think if I've grown calm, it's not because I don't have the same anger. Whenever I feel like I'm losing some of the anger, there's a very easy cure. You just sit down and read any human rights report, and it just makes your skin crawl. You get so angry at the things that go on there. It's not that I've lost any of my anger, any of my indignation, any of my fury. It's a kind of confidence. Whatever you say, I'm quite confident I can answer it. Most of the anger, in my opinion, comes from frustration. And it's often young people, no fault of their own. They're young. They're 20, 18. They haven't yet had a chance to study. And they listen to Arendt say one BS after another. And they don't know how to answer it. They just start screaming, liar, war criminal. I can understand that. And I don't claim I'm not going to pretend to be better. At that age, I too felt the frustration. I've studied a lot. And now I feel confident. So I'm not frustrated. I'm very angry, but I know how to control it.